good bit of pedal power. Improving these links means that more people will be here today. There's 5 people who don't live on campus, or sorry, who live in Hazel Farm residences or Manor Park residences, who are here today, which is really, really poor, to be honest. And there's 65, was it, people looking online. Given benefit of doubt, that's 70 people. I'm not great at maths, which is a lie. I'm actually quite really good at maths. 100% C1, just saying. That's 70 people out of 2,000 people that live in Manor Park and Hazel Farm. That's not good enough for me. And I want to improve that. I want to involve more people in campus life.
Perhaps the students at Manor Park, their butlers didn't tell them the night was on. Now, let us move to ethics and the environment. Gentlemen, is it ethical that an external organisation could pay for the Students' Union to adopt a policy that it wishes to see implemented? Now, there is some background to this. The NUS, the National Union of Students, are offering £1,000 to this union in order for this union to be a part of the Green Impact Scheme. The principle remains, is it ethical that an external organisation could pay for the union to adopt a policy that it wishes to see implemented? Peter?
I think the ethical implications...
Sorry, let's just move this a little bit closer. Okay.
I think the ethical implications of the decision to accept the money and adopt the policy depend on the ethical implications of the policy itself. If the policy agrees with what the union already supports or desires, then there are minimal ethical implications and the union gets funding to improve its current policies. However, if the policy is not something the union already supports or desires, then the union should consider whether the policy creates new obligations for the union that members may disagree with, and not do it just for the money. If no members disagree, then the union can adopt the policy like as usual. However, if some members disagree, no matter how few, then the ethical implications for accepting the policy become more significant. For example, if the policy disagrees with members' opinions or beliefs, then accepting the policy would damage the union's relationships with those members.
So in other words, if what you've been asked to take on is in line with what the union already believes, you see no problem.
Mm-hmm.
If not, then leave well alone. Phil?
First of all, let me say, for me, I see it as, okay, there's an advantage to it, and the advantage is if that organisation comes in, and it's, for example, Green Impact. I looked at their website, and they do quite a lot for students. Some of them, the volunteers in there train students to become auditors, and I think that would be great for students to like put on their CVs and stuff, just to improve their employability. And just that in itself is quite good. And for example, if it's also making the union become greener, if it's making the union be more effective and efficient for students as well, then I would support it. However, on the other side, for example, the union is an independent body itself. It's our voice. It's our students and to the university basically. So if that organization comes in and takes away that voice, then why are we really having it? For example, I'm a businessman and I look at I look at the contract and see if this contract is gonna affect me in a good way or a bad way, and if the advantages outweigh the disadvantages, then I would support it and say yes, the union should take on it. But I also have another take on it. Like I also see how this coming in would affect what.
Phil, I'm going to stop you there. There's an awful lot of weighing up. There's a lot of takes on it. You're sitting on both sides of the fence at the same time, which can be uncomfortable. If we're going to get you to fall down on one side, is it ethical that an external organisation could pay for the union to adopt a policy?
Yes, from the research I've taken, yes.
Then you think that is. All right, thank you very much. Now, Peter, you and Peter Sims share both the same name and manifesto. If Peter Sims is not elected as comms officer, does that invalidate half your manifesto?
I'd say possibly, because I will try and endeavour to fulfil.
Do the work of two people.
I'll still try and uphold both of our principles that we've come up with, but maybe some of the actions might not be implemented.
Okay. Phil, now looking at your manifesto, you talk about the ethical code and the requirement in law. We have to ask ourselves, what are you talking about? What ethical code and what requirement in law?
Any organisation has to follow a certain code of law and ethical code, really, to operate in just the normal environment. And
Sorry, no, clarify that.
Okay. Every organisation runs according to a law and has to operate in that law. If you understand.
Well, there's numbers of laws that we have to abide to, but you you talk specifically about an ethical code that is required in law. What is that code?
Right now, that code, I don't know that code right now, but
it could be perhaps because there isn't one. There is no requirement in law to have an ethical code.
Well, there is not, but what I'm trying to say is, what my manifesto was trying to say is that is the union really giving the students what they really deserve, and are they upholding what they are saying they are doing? So that was what I meant.
Okay.
So yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, you've heard what some of the candidates have had to say so far. If you've got any comments on that, now is the time that you can put your hand up, and we've got some questions. Questions from the floor. Mr. Sims.
Hello. There are various societies such as the Young Greens, such as Do More, such as Go Greens, and there's a veg garden starting on campus, which Victoria Johnson, who's the university's environmental team student face, is working.
If I can ask you not to mention staff, we don't exist during this process.
Sorry. What's your relationship? What's the candidates' relationships with these people? Are they involved in these societies? How would they support/represent these societies and groups?
Also, just a word to the candidates. Address the audience as well as myself. There's some people watching at home. There's some cameras looking at you. So, Peter's question. Phil?
I think how I represent these people, for me being a student here for 3 years, I think I've never been approached by any of these societies, and I'm quite active in I'm quite active around the university, but I've never been approached. That's what I really want to change right now, because I want to go out and meet every society that you have really said, but I want to make them a face on the university. I want to go out there and build relationships. That's how people will know. That's how people get involved in what you're trying to say. And there's no way I'll get involved in a society if you don't come up to me and try to say, yeah, what does the society do? What is really the basis of the society? So if you come up to me and try to develop a relationship with me, then yes, I would definitely go and have a look at what you're really trying to propose to me.
Okay. Peter, I believe that your running mate has thrown you a curveball there that you wouldn't have expected, but try your best to struggle on with an answer.
Okay. I'm a member of the Go Green and the Young Green Society. I've helped them out with the Go Green Week. I do try and help them with everything they do.
Okay, so you're an active member of Go Green?
Yes.
You've been involved in the Go Green activities at the moment?
Mm-hmm.
This a positive thing for the university?
Yes, I think so. Yeah.
Okay, good. Now, let's take a different spin on that for our community people. There's lots of community organisations. There's the Masons are always wanting students to get involved. There's several Rotary clubs. There's lots of charitable organisations. There's volunteering people. There's Guildford Borough Council. Have you had any connection with these people around the community so far? Ian?
As far as the ones, the Masons and the Rotary clubs that you mentioned,
they were just examples.
Examples. That's great because the answer is no to that. But a big part of king of dodgeball, by the way. A big part of what I've done at the dodgeball. Settle down. Big part of what I've done at the dodgeball club is I've wanted to get our members out into the community volunteering. Obviously, it's dodgeball, so that would be coaching dodgeball in schools. So, for instance, last year we went into the George Abbott School, which is over in Burtham, which, for anyone that hasn't ever left campus before, is kind of up and to the right of Guildford, over that way for me, or that way for you. So I've got out and I've helped out with, well, I hope I've helped out with the school and the children that went there by teaching that, and also I do maths tutoring and classroom assistanting as well. So I've volunteered as a classroom assistant in a school in Godalming, which is down from Guildford. You'll never have been there before.
What? We've never been to Godalming before.
As students, I don't think there's any reason for any students to go to Godalming.
No reason.
But
Right,
it
so
is a
the
lovely
community,
place.
the community stops at Park Barn. And by the way, I'll decide if the crowd needs settling down. I want to see the crowd liven up a little bit. Katie.
Okay, so a lot of you will know me. I've been on DMOR committee for the last 2 years. Some of the things that us as a committee have done with, through DMOR is we worked with a local group called Transition, and we did a planting day with a local school. I've also met one of the community wardens, Richard Musgrove, who is the community warden for West Borough and the area where Park Barn is. I've spoken to local residents who live on Monetary Close, which is a massive problem area in the community. I volunteer at the Citizens Advice Bureau, and we've also done events through DMOR at Park Barn Day Centre, collaborating with societies like Jazz Orchestra, Latin Ballroom Dance Club. So, yes, I have a lot of links with the local community.
Thank you very much. Right, anybody else from the floor? Lorna. We have a team on its way over to you. Team Leonie.
Okay, so I live in Halls, and it's basically like a sauna. This is to ethics and environment, by the way. And as one member, well-known member of the Chinese staff once put it, he likes to have hour-long showers. It's Chris Lighton. And also, people will often just chuck their plastic stuff in the bin rather than use recycling, glasses, things like that. What would you put in place to make halls greener?
So, environment guys, point there about the fact that you don't really pay for your utility usage in the halls. You can have your heaters on full, your windows open, and you can leave the taps running, do whatever you like. The energy costs for the university run into millions of pounds a year. So, is there any initiatives that I think we'll say, is there any initiatives that you would like to see implemented rather than you do yourself? You're a part-time officer. Let's keep this real. Is there anything that you would like to push the university to do to make the halls of residence more environmentally friendly? Peter.
Well, I think we could start to introduce perhaps more recycling, such as like with food waste and compostable materials, so that could help with the vegetable garden. It's in terms of trying to encourage people to recycle. We could start a campaign and explain to people why recycling is good, and try and improve energy efficiency, and just basically educate people and try and explain it.
Well, Peter, I'm going to push you on this one because for years, everybody has been told that recycling is good for you. And I never recycled until the local council took away my bin and gave me a green bin, so I had no choice. So do you think that education only goes so far and actually you have to force people?
We could provide an incentive for them, perhaps like the halls could collect points for every time they recycle something, and then they could buy things with those points or something.
Okay. So you'd like to see more carrots and less sticks?
I don't know.
Phil?
Something like that.
Thank you for your question. I think it's a very good question because
and one which you look forward to answering in the near future.
Because I think we have life coach mentors, and they are really the people who talk to these students, because they have like interaction with them. And I think for me, what I would try to do, first of all, for your situation, I would try to go and look at how the life coach mentors could help out. And if you brought it to me, I would go and talk to them and see if they could talk to that person and really try to change its ways and try to encourage them so that they can look out for you as well as a student. However, on the question of trying to encourage recycling, I thought students don't have time to, like, okay, we have bombarded students with recycling, but most students like sports. Why can't we make recycling fun? So I thought during Freshers Week, one idea I had is like basketball, recycling basketball. You throw stuff in like bins because people really like that game, and you try to in that process you get people to know that this is fun and I can do this, and it's a practice that they can take away and use for fun as well. So it won't be effort to recycle, but it will be fun to recycle. So that's one thing I'll try to bring about, because as a student I think you need some bit of fun to make. I think we learn more from things that we have had like good experiences with. So that's what I think really.
Thanks very much. Right, going to turn to community. Question to you, and Katie, you will start. What do you think is the most neglected section of the community in our locality?
Is that the student community?
No, the Guildford community. The community of which we are part.
Okay, from my experience in getting involved with the local community, I think that Park Barn is probably one of the areas that, maybe I wouldn't say neglected, that's a bit strong, but I think that there are a lot of local initiatives that try and make that better. So you've got the events that I run with Duma at Park Barn Day Centre. You've also got it's a charity, the Park Barn Youth Project. Mm-hmm. So they run a lot of things in the area for children after school. So I think that probably Park Barn would be my answer.
Okay, Ian, what's the most neglected part of our community?
I'd have to agree that it has to be Park Barn, really. You talk to any student that's ever lived there or thought about living there, and they don't give it great reviews due to various antisocial behaviour from either local community or other students walking through. I've had it all because I live right behind Tesco's. Everyone walks through. It can get quite rowdy at times. It's kind of seen as the kind of Mordor area of Guildford, if you like, and it's not entirely true, because if you go out there and you go and meet the people, like I've had some great just random conversations with people walking their dogs or whatever along Southway, who are they're all normal people, but students don't know this, and the reverse of that is the people living there in Park Barn don't know that students are great as well. So I'd really look to hopefully do some student interaction with the community in Park Barn to help that.
All right, thank you very much. Now we are sadly almost at the end, but I'd like to see some comments from the floor. Even if you just got comments rather than questions that you'd like to make, feel free to stick up your hand, or if you've got some very quick questions to make. Oh, there's a voice in the gloom.
Hi, it's just so people. The alleyway that's sort of behind GSA, that a lot of students turn down when you like walk into Southway.
Oh, the underpass.
I hate walking down that alleyway. It's dark. I mean, there was a couple of months where there was no light and it was just like pitch black, and it's disgusting. Sometimes it's flooded. It smells like sewer. It's really horrible. Is there something, community officers, what can you do to ensure the safety of the students that constantly walk down that alleyway to and from? And I'm a student nurse, so I get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and I walk down that alleyway and I go to placement at 4 o'clock in the morning. And if there's no lights, what can you do to ensure not my safety?
Okay, I think we can let all four answer that, because that's an environmental issue as well. It's part of the environment. It affects the community. So, Ian, your thoughts on the underpass and what we can do to perhaps make students like that when they feel safer when they're walking through in the pitch black at 4 in the morning?
Yeah, I think a similar thing a few years ago was done to the other underpass. So if you, instead of turning right, you go left. And it's now painted all nice and yellow, and there's new lights. And then the one after that on the way to Tesco's, that's got cameras. Hopefully they work, but also good lighting along there as well. I think the underpass and the whole section leading up to that needs a lot better lighting, at least. I mean, that's a no-brainer. Also, it can be resurfaced. Maybe, I'm a civil engineer, so put a little channel in where it always gets flooded. I've cycled through it, it's disgusting. It always gets flooded. Just a little tube through the beneath, a little bit of better drainage, install a couple of drains, storm drains, just saying, concrete and stuff. And that, it's not a lot of effort, but it goes a long way to helping the problem just by better lighting and better drainage. Okay, Peter?
Well, I've never really seen this underpass, but I'm sure.
It's the path that you go from. You leave at the GSA side of campus, go to Tesco's. It's the one that takes you underneath the A3.
I have been to Tesco's.
You've been to Tesco's?
Not sure if I recognise the underpass in question.
Or maybe you go by jetpack. Phil?
What I plan to do is work with the community officer and work with at least the union to see that is really pushed towards the university to be taken care of, because we are looking out for students, and if students are having a problem, we should address it really. So yeah, that's what I'd really do.
Okay, Katie?
Okay, so I know that, I believe, might have to be corrected, that when Tom, current VP Welfare, one of the first things he did when he came to office was fix the lights that were there. I'm not sure if that's true, but I used to live near there, so I know what you mean. I know it is a problem area. One thing I think I would like to do is do a similar campaign that I know the union ran a few years ago. It was called Lights, Camera, Action. Is that right? Yeah.
It is.
Yeah, so something like that, just to promote awareness. So I'd quite like to run that maybe with the VP Welfare. I know that's part of my role, doing campaigns. So to promote awareness to the university about the issue, because obviously it is that is one of the main alleyways to where all the student accommodation is. And if students are living off campus for 3+ years, I think that's something that I probably would like to push, and it is really, really important.
Great. For my final question, I'm going to go from left to right. Ethics and environment community, you both feed into the position of welfare. You will, of course, have read all the manifestos for VP Welfare, so tell me, who is getting your first preference for the vote for VP Welfare? Phil?
I've read their manifestos, but I'm going to go with after their question time.
Peter?
I haven't actually read any manifestos.
You haven't read any manifestos, you've never left campus, you are the most amazing student I've ever met. Ian?
Oh, Christ, there's 9 of them.
Oh, it's language, Timothy. Please, are you going to take this role seriously, or are you going to continue to swear and joke throughout your year?
I haven't swore yet, have I?
Just profaned.
I'd like to wait to question time as well, but can I do a short list?
No. Katie?
Part of the job is answering difficult questions, but I do think that waiting till after question time be able to make the best decision to let all the candidates, whether who are campaigning strongly or not, to be able to have their opinion and who they are and what they want to do.
Excellent, wonderful answers. You too should listen to Question Time. The candidates for VP Welfare coming up next. In the meantime, thank you for Ethics and Environment.
Should I be sitting there? You're in the only seat. Huh? You're in the only seat. Oh, really? Why didn't someone tell me? Because the only way around. Why am I getting the seat instead of this? No one else sat there. Told everyone to
local community and be providing sort of cohesion between the local community and the students, and ensure that the Students' Union is aware of the effects and the issues affecting the community. So we'll start off with the first question that was posed to the candidates, which is most of the candidates focus on what the community can actually do for students, what the students can do for the community, but what can the community actually do for the students? So do you think there's much the community can do for the students that would benefit the students, do we think?
Oh, everyone's looking at me. I think there's a huge amount to say for student integration in the community. We have a campus that's pretty much set on a hill away from the rest of Guildford, and I think it seemed to be a big divide in the students, between the students and the community. And I think as well as students having a lot to offer the community just with way of volunteering and all the, I know that's an example, but there's a huge amount of other stuff that goes on. There's a lot of experience in the community that students can benefit from as well. I don't really think I can pick out any specific examples, but I think there's a lot that students can gain from being part of a local community and not just sitting up on a hill away from everyone.
Do we think that, I mean, with students being quite busy on their day-to-day basis, you know, with their degree, their societies, and probably being on committees and various other things that they'd like to do you think that students feel they have time to take part in community events like volunteering and fundraising and that sort of thing?
I think that one of the brilliant things about Surrey, and I don't think I'm biased at all, but one of the brilliant things about Surrey is the fact that we do get involved so much in the extracurricular, especially charitable events, fundraising opportunities. So I think it's something that many students do capitalise on. Obviously, you can always get more students involved and engaged, but I think that it was an interesting question, because I think a lot of the time students do focus on how they can benefit the community, like as in Guildford and wider Surrey, as opposed to thinking about necessarily what they can actually get from Surrey and the different opportunities that they can get from Surrey as well. So, but I think that we are very active, like as Surrey students are very active.
I think stepping back from the whole sort of what can students do for the community, I think students will always have an uphill struggle with the whole student binge drinking issue. However much sort of volunteering work students are going to do, however much student outreach to the community, they're always going to be up against the whole students drink, they don't do anything during their spare time.
The whole persona of student life, you know, drinking,
so
that sort of thing.
I don't think necessarily that more projects, more projects than that, they sort of expands the amount of people who can see students are doing more, but I think potentially what we have to do is look at the core aspect of what are our students doing when they're out drinking? Are they causing issues with the community? Because however much good you're going to do, one wing mirror kicked off someone's car is going to be that's going to be the only thing they're going to think about over the next sort of month or 2 years or whatever.
So where do we think currently the relationship between the community and the students are? Where do you think we sort of stand with what the community think of the student body and vice versa?
I don't think it's too bad. I think it's in many areas. Like I think obviously we sort of communicate with each other every day when you go to town. But I think there are issues that need to be dealt with. Like for example, I think Katie's put down a specific one about the sort of noise, and also something like Martin talks about. Like obviously if you go out drinking, that people get drunk and then damage is caused from that as well. So I think it's just sort of negotiating and sort of working with that relationship, make sure it's maintained. Okay. It's very difficult to come up with something specific as well. Yeah. Like, there's somebody the average can take it from without being able to see exactly what they see from the outside. Because for all students, it's very difficult to sort of foresee what the external community think about us.
This issue, I mean, we're particularly talking about Walnut Tree Close here, with students walking back from town late at night and disturbing the residents there. And it's an ongoing issue year after year. It's the same kind of issues that come up. Students are being noisy late at night. They're damaging people's property on the road and things like that. And it's interesting that both community candidates have picked this up in their manifestos, but all of the candidates from last year, I would expect, would probably put something in there about the same thing, and probably the year before. So it'd be interesting to actually see what they really want to do about it. And it's what we talked about earlier, you know, a lot of candidates talk around the issues, not about them and what they really want to change.
And going from that point as well, I remember that when I was welfare officer last year, a lot of the time candidates assumed that the issue was in Walnut Tree Close, but the campus police officer had actually said that the complaints had moved away from the Walnut Tree Close area and it was more towards the Park Barn area, and that was simply because of the high number of students living there. And students had gone from going out to more having maybe house parties, pre-drinking in-house, and that's where the complaints were. So sometimes it's about, are the candidates actually aware of the situation and the current issues, or are they assuming that those are the current issues without actually researching with residents or with campus police or whoever is the necessary source as well?
That's a very good point. So we'll just cross over to Nicole now and see what's happening on Twitter.
Well, I think this was like a really interesting one, especially for the ethics and environment side. But in terms of community, I would say that, I'm not sure if I can actually say, but there's been a lot of support for both candidates. Again, I think improving on, say, the ones we saw before, I think there was a lot more communication in terms of fleshing out what they had in their manifestos. And I think a lot of people did appreciate this time. And there's a lot of love for community at the moment.
Okay, great. So just moving on to the some more points of the manifestos now. So Ian talked about, as well as reaching out to the local community, also talked about combining the campus community, so the main campus base at Manor Park and at Hazel Farm. And one of the interesting points that he put in his manifesto was to implement a sort of like a Boris bike system where students will be able to make travelling around to the campuses easier. Do we think this is a sort of a viable and effective policy, do we reckon?
Well, it has been very popular in London. I know it's obviously a much bigger scale. My only concern is that will the safety element be involved with that? Because, there's a lot of places on campus that you can cycle. There's also a lot of places on campus that you can't cycle. So potentially you could be causing more conflicts between pedestrians and cyclists. But in terms of connecting, I think he was talking about between Hazel Farm and the campus and sort of Manor Park as well. I haven't actually cycled between the two, so I don't know what the cycle facilities are like. However, I have cycled between campus and Park Barn, and I know a lot of it is on road if you don't want to start squashing pedestrians. So my question would be, it's a good idea, but A, what's the safety element of that, and B, who's going to pay for it?
There are only a few ways you can split the pie.
Yeah.
If you're going to take the money for Boris bikes or equivalent to Boris bikes, where's the money coming from?
There's a few facts that, obviously, we're talking about is if it was viable, but we're not really sure about that at the moment, because if you look at the Boris bikes, for example, they were sponsored by Barclays, a big external company, and put loads of money down for that. And it's not just buying the bikes and putting them in place, it's then maintaining them, sort of monitoring. If they go lost, you've got to go find them. Who's going to pay the cost of using them? Is it going to be free service? Is it not going to be a free service? There's so many different things to that. It's very difficult. And also encouraging,
just because the bikes are going to be there doesn't mean students are going to start riding bikes. Will we have to, and will, like he as a candidate, will he have to sort of encourage and publicise healthy living to get people to use bikes, or will they just sit stationary?
Can I think this is it's a very interesting concept, and I've actually seen it in one of the welfare candidates' manifestos as well. So there's obviously something that people want to see changed around this area. The University Transport Department actually are in, I don't know whether it's conversation or what they're doing, but they're promoting the bike hire that you can get at the station.
Okay.
You know, the same kind of thing. You pay for a day and you can use the bike. So it'd be interesting to see whether actually, to start with, whether promoting that kind of thing would be a better use of part-time exec time.
That specific policy is a great idea. I personally feel that'd be nice, but it's again where's the money coming from? But it could even work with other roles. For example, it could work part of Get Fit Feb as a sort of big campaign to push then for the sports VP. It could also work with ethics environment as being an environmental thing. So it could work and play different roles at the same time. So it could be launched in that sort of way. But the main basis of it is where's the money coming from in the first place.
So just moving on to the ethics and environment now, just as we're a bit pushed for time. There was a couple of interesting points that were brought up in the campaign. One was very much the split campaign with the two Peters running for the two different roles there. So what do we feel about the split campaign? Do we think that, like you said, brought up in question time, that if one of them doesn't get voted in, is that half the policy's gone, or is it hard to tell whose policies were part of what on the manifestos there?
I've met with both of them. They're both quite good candidates, but I feel that obviously with the two Peters that put their manifestos together, it does sort of blur lines between what's proposed by each position. Quite a lot of the things you see down here, well, at least three of the top three, they seem very specific to comms, as in the communication between the union and students. Whereas the last point's more on the campaign and sort of divestment that's going on at the moment within sort of Go Green. So it's not.
I think it raises a good point in that the part-time exec roles themselves don't have to fit specifically into these roles. They're part of a wider team, and I think it's bringing up that point of actually I'm not just ethics and environment officer specifically. I don't have to do all of my work around that. I'm part of this team that does everything else as well. So I think that's an interesting point that comes out of it. But I do think it's interesting that the things that are relevant for the comms officer manifesto in this and the ethics environment officer kind of get a little bit blurred. But whether that's a bad thing or not, I don't know.
Going from that point, I hadn't actually thought about it in the sense of they're thinking about themselves in relation to another role, which is definitely good, but I personally think it is an unwise move, only because it's harder to differentiate between them as individual candidates, and because of that it's hard to see the positives of one Peter compared to the other, and actually who it is that you're voting for, and can you understand like the qualities that one is going to bring if you choose to vote in one for one role but not the other for another role.
By tying two positions, or two people in two positions together, you do run that risk. Like if one person isn't so favourable, there's another person that's running that's more popular, then you've kind of tarnished your reputation already in that. So it's very difficult. By doing that, you'll be very careful of tying with someone else before the vote.
I think, from my perspective, the biggest risk with that is if you've got a single manifesto with two people on the bottom.
Sorry, Mike, we're just out of time. We're going to have to cut back to question time now and move on with VP Welfare.